What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. And if you're watching me on YouTube, welcome back to the channel. I promise I will have a vlog up for you very soon, but it's another beautiful day here in Tulum. And I feel like a supercharged, energy bunny. I've been sleeping like 8 to 9 hours and have been in this amazing creative portal. And so I've got a lot to say for today's episode. This is one of those episodes that's coming from the soul, right? I've got riffs on riffs on riffs for you. It's going to be one of those so good episodes that is going to blow your mind because something out of the seven is bound to resonate and hit home. But before we dive into today's episode, I just want to say thank you. The other day, I got a really incredible message from a listener who I'd never spoken to before, never interacted on Instagram, nothing. She sent me this very long, beautiful message sharing the impact of one of the episodes that was recorded. She shared this story and how powerful it was. And then at the end, she's like, "This was a little bit weird and stretchy. I've been wanting to message you. I felt a little awkward about it. I didn't know if you would read this." I just want to say, write me your novels. I will read your stories. Nothing brightens up my day more than opening up my Instagram and finding a whole ass novel about your transformation, your activation, just by even watching a video or listening to an episode, and really applying and living and breathing, kind of some of the things that we talk about. It means more to me than you will ever know, especially because I'm in this rebirthing cycle, and I'm kind of dipping my toes and figuring out who I am in this new chapter of my creative career. And so I'm really grateful for that. And the second thing that I want to say thank you for is all of your shares. All of your shares, I see them. Thank you for sharing the show. Especially in a time where I'm actually dialing back a little bit of promotion, and I'll explain why in future episodes, but I'm dialing it back. So it helps me so much to see when you're tagging episodes and you're bringing your girlfriends and you got to listen to the show. That means so, so much to me. I see everyone. I'm so grateful for you. I really just want to say thank you for being on this ride with me. Every bit of feedback that you give around what works and what activates helps me create more content, especially because as you guys have seen, I am on a roll of content creation. I am I don't know what is coming out. I am Picasso. I don't know what is coming out of me, but I think it's maybe been building up for the past year and just craving to be created. And so it feels really good to be able to do that and to have you to receive it. So thank you for that. Now, today's episode, every single conversation that I am having with incredible women, high level women, women of impact, women that are out there, living their best life has to do with some sort of an energy leak. So if you're a girly who is out here ready to activate your fullest potential, you're here, you have this craving, which by the way, not everyone has. I think it's important to note that not everyone wakes up and says, you know what? I really want to see how big I can go. You know what? I really want to see how big of an impact I can have. I want to meet these, versions of myself at the very edges of what is possible for me. Not everyone wakes up like that. I think you do, and you think that it's normal, but it's really not necessarily as common as you would say or as you would think, right? So in today's episode, I have my little notes here. Literally, my notes are just the 7 points that I want to riff on. That's how flowy we're going to get in this. So I feel like a lot of little energy is going to come out here. So much of this is relevant. And these are all conversations that I have had within the last week, if not the last two. Okay. This is how common, recent, and alive these concepts are. So when we're talking about energy leaks, we're talking about things that you might not necessarily have an awareness, right? It's kind of like the back door where energy, your power, your sense of self is essentially kind of dripping out. And you're not noticing it because maybe you are hyper focused on, creating the best version of your life, or creating a wonderful business or whatever it is. You might not necessarily notice it and it might feel normal. These things might feel like, yeah, everybody navigates these. Yeah, this is part of, this is part of life. However, when you are someone who is looking to really turn up the dial and become the best absolute version of yourself, it is incredibly important. to be able to take note of these things, of having this awareness, of kind of doing like an audit. So together, you and I are going to do an audit. One of these might hit, maybe all seven might hit. Okay. And I want you to drop in and get really brutally honest with what's going on here, because let's keep as our North Star your fullest potential, the fullest expression of what you are capable of, what you are here to do, right? And the life that you are here to live, because that little spark that says, like, I'm here for something big, I'm here for something great, like that's not going anywhere. So let's figure out where the energy is leaking so that you can fucking go forth and conquer on, right? Because that's what we're all about. All right, so let's dive in. We're going to start with number one, which is situationships and relationship drama. All right. Situationships specifically, because it's one of those undefined territories where this might be a long episode. Let's just prepare for it because I've got things to say. Um, situationships are one of those like undefined territories, and they activate all of our little like nervous centers, right? So we're like in the unknown, we're in the uncertainty, we're in the am I good enough for this? Like, where is this gonna go anywhere? Like many of us, and this is just like the dating culture in 2025, it's all super like unsteady and weird, and like everyone is dating everyone. It's a little bit incestuous, within groups. And then, we've kind of like normalized ghosting. We've normalized, extending situationships for like months at a time. Like we've been seeing each other, we've been in a talking stage, whatever. Now, you might have in the mindset that you are totally good with this, that you are all about it, that you are like loving the vibe, that this is how you date, etc. However, chances are, because of the uncertainty and because it's very likely triggering little bits of wound, right? Little versions of you, baby versions of Chiara, baby versions of you. You are going to, unconsciously or subconsciously, or consciously, right, leak that energy. I saw a TikTok the other day about like a, POV, you get like a promotion at work, but the boy hasn't texted you back. Your situationship hasn't texted you back, and the girl's all like barely like making a celebration of like her, of her achievement, which is definitely what ends up happening because we put our focus in these things. And especially if you're out there like looking for love and you're navigating these kind of uncertain relationships, which are in most situations a little bit toxic, mostly toxic, honestly. I'll have a whole episode on this. Let me know, by the way, if you want an episode on situationships, because I've got so much to say on this. But because of the little bit of uncertainty, and you might want love and dating, and you might want that like intimacy, it makes you feel really vulnerable. And because there's this like uncertainty and toxicity that comes with situationships, it's an energy leak, right? Because you're going to be thinking about whether the dude texted you when you could be focusing on creating or like even being out. By the way, this isn't to say this is just about like your business or anything like this or achievement. I'm talking about even being present with your girlfriends or at a family event. You're over here wondering and hoping, if the guy texts you, you're not even present at your little niece's, birthday party because you're like checking your phone like a crazy mad person. So this like situationships, keep an eye out for the kind of relationships that exist in this kind of void and this weird little limbo of like, what are we? Will they, won't they energy? Because so much of you kind of gets, you know, it gets sucked out. Like the essence of you, right, is like dedicated to focusing on the situationship when it could be focused on the magic of, creating, of expressing, of going to Pilates, whatever it is that you are looking to, create the best version of yourself. Within the same role, like scope of this is also toxic relationships or relationship drama. So you might actually be in partnership. You might be in a monogamous relationship with someone, and there's toxicity or there's drama that's like unresolved and that's there. Like, especially when you're in partnership, like partnership takes up such a big part of your life. It becomes like, especially if you're married, like there is, a whole life that's intertwined with another. So when there is drama, when there is unresolved drama, things that you guys keep, brushing under the rug, that is going to take from you. That is going to suck the life out of you. So, maybe you're like not fully talking, maybe you're like navigating a fight right? And you're like kind of walking by one another in the kitchen and you're brushing shoulders and there's this awkward, like, excuse me, like passing by, right? There's this like awkward little dance that you guys do. That feeling in your heart of like, ugh, this feels awful is sucking energy from you, right? So obviously, if the solution for situationships is like either get something that's less toxic, right? Or end it, which is like, especially if it's keeping you back, right? But again, we'll do a whole episode on this. The same goes kind of for toxic relationships or unresolved, relationship drama. Like you want to resolve it, whatever the resolution is, whether it's let's go, if it's super extreme, let's go to couples therapy. Let's talk about what this would look like potentially separating, whatever it is, or let's sit down and let's move through this as a powerful relationship that we are. But a decision has to be made because essentially, I could think the core message here in relationships is if you're in limbo, it's going to drain the energy from you. Like there's no reason to be and exist in limbo. The only reason that we exist in limbo is because we are afraid to face things. Like we're afraid to face the reality that the situationship that we're in doesn't actually like want to commit and become serious. We're afraid of, being abandoned, right? We're afraid of having to navigate, maybe a potential ending of a relationship that has lasted a very long time. It could also be like having to radically own ways that we ourselves have messed up in a relationship. We will avoid it. We will keep shit in limbo. We don't want to do that. So that's sucking the life, the energy out of you. All right. Very closely related to that, number two is unresolved big decisions, okay? Or anything that's an open loop. Okay. So I used to teach this when I taught business. Like if you have, open loops everywhere, if you have, I'll talk about both open loops and unresolved decisions because I think these are huge energy leaks. These are things that are like exist in the back of our mind and just like don't budge, right? Open loops is like when you're talking to a client, maybe potentially to be signing with you for a big project, and they say, I'll think about it, or I'll get back to you on Monday at the end of the weekend. And you're sitting there with anxiety Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, waiting for this answer to come. Now, obviously, I would teach that if this is the way that you want to do business, meaning you want to give people time to make decisions, which is absolutely fine. You must master the art of detachment because you need to be okay with like unplugging from that energetic loop. Otherwise, you are going to be in the desperate energy. You're going to think about it and it's going to energetically deplete you. This is just the way that it works, right? Open loops is also very similar to the situationship where something's like open, it's unknown, it's uncertain, it's kind of over there. Now, if you're able to master detachment, these open loops are fine because you're not necessarily attached to it going any which way, right? However, if you are, mostly human and you are like hoping for the big sale or hoping for this super seemingly dreamy dude to decide that he's going to, commit to you because he's been thinking about it or whatnot, this is a massive energy leak. This is like all of your attention goes there. Now, do you see how all consuming this could be if you're like out there trying to live your best life, trying to be the best version of yourself, trying to go to Pilates, trying to launch your business, trying to grow your business, try to, launch a new branch of your business. Like you are all up in the progress and evolution of your life. And yet all you can think about are these open loops. The same goes for unresolved big decisions. Now, I have friends who have a lot of problems making this or find it really challenging, we'll say, to make life-changing decisions. Obviously, all right, fine. I know that I've like kind of mastered the art of like the fuck it and let's go for it. And I understand that that's not everybody. However, there is an extreme version of that. There is an extreme version of avoiding essentially making a decision that could potentially change the trajectory of your life, which is fine. We're human. And sometimes it becomes all consuming. And when it becomes all consuming, when anything becomes all consuming, which is, I think, the theme of this episode thus far, anything becomes all consuming, it's an energy leak, right? So you can't fully move forward in the progress of your life when you have this massive weight weighing on you on like, whether you should move or, whether you should buy the house or whatever it is, like these big things, and I've talked about this on the show so many times and I will continue to. Something that's really helped me is that I don't believe there's a right or wrong decision. There's always just a decision and the storyline that unfolds on the other side of that. Because sometimes we put so much weight on making these big like decisions and that it feels better and safer to leave them unresolved because we kind of like feel like this is make or break, it's life or death. And so our, brain goes into hyperdrive and it's like, you might die if you make the wrong choice. That's to the degree that it could get to leaving it. So obviously, in terms of energy leaking, this is like a massive drain on you. All right. So that's number two. Number three, I do the European three. The misaligned clients. Misaligned clients, now obviously you can phrase this in misaligned, work environment. I think if you're in corporate, if you're not an entrepreneur, but I know that the vast majority of my audience at this time is, you're entrepreneurs and you have clients. One way or another, you are working, you are being of service, you are, whatever it is, whether it's delivery, consulting, coaching, guidance, whatever it is. Misaligned clients, which by the way happen more often than you would think, are a massive energy leak. Okay, massive energy leak. Now, they can show up in the sense of, maybe you accepted a client because you needed money and you were like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to make it work. Even though in your heart of hearts, you knew that they were going to be either challenging or it was going to be a bit of a stretchy situation or container, but you accepted it out of, maybe a lack, like I need money, or maybe just like really poor boundary, right? Like around like maybe they're just pushing. I've had that, by the way. I've had clients that have like wanted to work with me, and maybe I wasn't really like solid in my boundaries because I was still like building, and they wanted to work with me and I knew that maybe they needed somebody else, but they were, it was so intense that I was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, let's give this a shot. Like misaligned clients can happen in that way. Misaligned clients can also happen when you are in your growth phase. This is something that I work with a lot with my clients on because I work with women who grow, quickly, who want to grow quickly. And so a lot of times you are going to outgrow the clients that you have and learning to navigate that. Now, obviously, this isn't to say you're closing contracts, but there is something very important to know when a client starts to feel out of alignment and what you can do about it. Obviously, there are many things depending on the situation, right? It might be an evolution of the container. It might be like a recommitment, which I teach my clients to do very, very powerfully because it happens. But something has to be done because if you leave it the way that it is, the energetic signature that it is, it's an energy leak. It's inevitable for it to be because you're not feeling fulfilled by your work, right? Like you're going on your calls, you're supporting these people, and then you're getting off the call and you are curling up, as I used to do, and eating a box of Oreos in your underwear at 6 p.m. and being like, I'm exhausted. That's it. I don't want to do anything more. I used to do that. And, my first mentor was like, have you ever considered that? Maybe we need to elevate the kind of client that you're working with because you are growing very quickly. So I know this is a very like niche kind of concept. However, it's also very relevant, right, to energy leaks. And especially if you are a woman who is growing quickly, you're going to experience these things. It's inevitable. All right, number four is overgiving. Overgiving specifically in both cases. I'm going to obviously kind of talk about personally and professionally. Overgiving in relationships, right? When you are giving more than you are receiving. So the relationship is not reciprocated, right? You are giving, 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 not receiving. We talked about this in, I think it was like the second episode of the show, Energy Vampires, right? And essentially, that's what it is. It's an energy leak. When you have relationships, friendships in your life where you're not feeling compensated, and I don't want to kind of frame it in the sense of like tit for tat, right? But, balance and harmony is a very like normal thing. It's a law of nature, right? So that needs to also happen. That I can't say the word. It has to be reciprocated, right? In both, it has to be well balanced. I can say it sometimes and it comes out fluidly, but when I try to say it, I can never say it. This is the bilingual coming out of me. It has to be reciprocated, right? And so that like imbalance, right? Like when you're feeling that lack, right? It's an energy leak because there is a part of you that might dread connection, in the sense that you might have a hangout, you might have a phone conversation, come out of it feeling like drained, feeling like the life force was sucked out of you, right? This is also, similar to when you are working in your business and you are not pricing your services in such a way that is nourishing, and feeling like adequate compensation for the work that you do. Now, this is really important because we could talk about pricing all day, and I used to very much, right? However, it's a very real conversation because you could talk about pricing yourself according to the marketplace. You can talk about, like your ideal clients and where they're at, but there is no denying that you needing to feel actually compensated for your work is important, because otherwise you are headed straight down towards a burnout. And we don't want that. I don't want that for you. And I know you don't want that for you. All right. Number 5. Okay, I think we're okay on time. I'm starting to glisten here if you're watching on video because it's so hot. I even have the air conditioning on, risking the audio quality because it's so hot these days. Have been so hot in Tulum. All right, where are we? Number 5. Okay, neglecting your body and your health. Now, this was a massive energy leak for me in a time that I didn't notice it, especially one of two ways. Either your life is going great and you're too busy to notice that you're neglecting your health and your well being, or you are hustling your cute little butt off to try to get yourself out of a situation and you're not noticing that you're neglecting your health. Or maybe you're hyper focused on something that is happening, in your life, maybe personally, romantically, right? And you are not noticing that you are completely neglecting your energy, your wellness, your well-being, and your health in general. So your sleep, especially when you are all consumed over all the things, right? And so it doesn't make sense to even try to prioritize fixing your sleep because you're staying up all night and you're just seeing it as a symptom of everything that's going on. When the reality is that prioritizing your health, and we talked about this, and when in doubt, get hot, with prioritizing your health, sets you up to crush whatever scenario, whatever situation that you're in. When you focus on your health, it becomes kind of like your power source, right? It gives you the vitality to navigate everything that you need to. But when you're neglecting your health, it's going to have the opposite effect, and it's going to be an energy leak that you may not even notice, meaning you might not notice that neglecting your health, not going to the gym, not taking your supplements, not doing, whatever you need to be doing, some biohacking vibes depending, because I will tell you, by the way, that once I reached 7-figure level in my career, biohacking and optimizing my health became a non-negotiable. There was no reality that I could have sustained the level of growth and expansion that I was navigating without prioritizing my health in that way. Neglecting your health is an inevitable energy leak. And so on the flip side, prioritizing that is going to give you so much energy, and you're actually going to, have a standing chance at actualizing your greatest potential, right? Because every part of you is lit up and activated, and there's so much available to you. So that is number 5, neglecting your body and health. Number 6 is neglecting a spiritual practice. Now, I don't care. It is irrelevant what that spiritual practice is, what you believe in, what you practice. I think we all have this beautiful opportunity for connection to divinity, and whatever path, whatever channel you choose and also might feel as truth to you, then so be it. But whatever it is, have something, because when you, and this is important specifically in terms of energetic output, okay, the energy that we put out into the world. When you are completely disconnected from divinity and something above you and bigger than you, everything is happening in the 3D. Everything is your body putting out force and putting out effort to make things work. So you are using 10 times the amount of energy to get a result. Whereas if you were connected to divinity and having a spiritual practice, you would be able to tap more into your magnetism, right? And your ability to manifest and create incredible opportunities using much less of that effort and force to make things happen. I talked about this in the magnetism workshop, right? Specifically because the more that we're out there doing it, the more energy that we are using. So we want to be mindful about that and activating and connecting to divinity and having, a spiritual practice. And again, whatever that looks like for you, and prioritizing that on a daily basis sets you up to already use, magic manifestation, your own like natural, kind of source, your magnetism and radiance and attraction. So you have to use less energy. So this is why I consider this an energy leak, because I think that, you're not noticing that it's like you're using too much. I'm sure there's like a mechanical equivalent to this, right? Like where maybe like so much is being you're all overcompensating for like what's lacking over here. So you're putting more and more and more. I'm sure there's some kind of equivalent out there that I could use as an example, but I can't think of one right now. And obviously, without me having notes and things already written, then so be it. But I think you get it. I think you understand what I'm talking about, right? Now, the last one is an energy leak that you may not necessarily consider an energy leak, but when there is a version of energy optimization, I always see it through the lens of, well, the opposite has a leak. All right. So, number 7 is not being in the right rooms, working with the wrong mentors and teachers, and generally having like, I would not say wrong, right? But a less optimal, group of friends and peers and surrounding relationships. Now, this is important because they relationships like this, right? If you're working with the wrong mentors, if you're in the wrong groups, you are running the risk of not fully being seen. You are running the risk of not fully being challenged, and you are running the risk of being kept small, right? Sometimes, to make everyone around you feel better and brighter, right? You dimming. And so there is no way for you to reach your highest potential. You should be working with mentors, guides, and teachers who will reflect back the bigness and the possibility of you and can hold you in that potential. That could say, amazing, like tell me everything you want to create and let's bring it to life. You should feel fully seen in what you are capable of, right? And not dimmed, not diminished, not, pushed out into the crowd, not, hey, let's play it safe, but fully seen in what you are capable of and the things that make you unique. So you having actual reflections and mirrors in your life to be able to hold that for you is probably one of the most important things. I know for a fact that the women that I have worked with and work with express that as the number one reason they are grateful for working with me, because I can hold them in that bigness. Find mentors and teachers and guides and anyone, even friends, right, that can hold you in that vision, that can hold you in the magic and potential that is available to you. But also have these people be at a level where they are feeling secure enough to challenge you in that, because that's equally as important. If we're talking about reaching your like absolute potential, we're talking about like going as big as you can absolutely go. You want people that are going to challenge the version of you that you are now so that you can grow and evolve into the version of you that you are becoming. So, because of this, I very much see not having this as an energy leak. Now, the thing about these energy leaks, right, is that a lot of them are not noticeable. You may not necessarily notice that you are spending your day thinking about your situationship or still like, thinking back or replaying a conversation that you had with your partner or spouse, right? You may not realize this is literally taking up overwhelming because you might be physically sitting down and doing another task, right? But every time that there is an overwhelm, anytime that something is all consuming, it is draining energy that could be going towards you actualizing like a new version of yourself, your dreams, your achievements, like the life of your dreams. All right. So this felt important. I think this was a good, conversation to start. Let me know if you want me to do like segmented episodes on each topic, because I feel like there was so much depth that we can go into with these. I just know that being able to reflect these back to the women that I've spoken to in the last week or two has been like really activating because of the fact that they didn't really notice the stuff was going on. Like, yeah, you're right. I have been sitting on this like massive decision. Yeah, you're right. I have been going straight to work without actually prioritizing, meditating or journaling or praying, right? Or working out and getting like prioritizing movement in my body. All of these things are always going to activate you in a way where you get to say, I get to prioritize myself, right? And so this energy gets to go to actualizing me and everything that I want to create. So I hope today's episode was exactly what you needed to hear. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next episode of the show.